This week's theme is clear. Third-party and supply chain exposure is showing up across website plugins, checkout pages, and even core telemetry platforms. Here's what changed, why it matters, and what defenders can do right now. Welcome back to the briefing. We'll cover 3 developments that carry immediate operational implications: a compromised WordPress plugin update channel, new PCI DSS pressure on third-party scripts at checkout, and a freshly added Splunk enterprise flaw in the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. First, shaped plugin update flow hacked to infect WordPress sites. Multiple WordPress plugins from Shaped Plugin were compromised in a supply chain attack, and infected releases were delivered through the vendor's official update system to paying customers. That means the attack piggybacked on a trusted channel, bypassing many organizations' usual download hygiene, and landing directly in production environments via routine updates. The key facts are straightforward. This was not a drive-by download or a rogue mirror. The official distribution mechanism was used, multiple plugins were affected, and customers who believed they were applying legitimate updates unintentionally pulled in malicious code. This is downstream risk in action. It matters because update trust is a cornerstone of how we maintain web software at scale. When the update pipeline itself is abused, traditional allow lists, approval gates, and automated deployments can propagate compromise. For organizations running these plugins, the exposure path is not theoretical. It came from what should have been the safest place. If you defend WordPress workloads, pause and verify. Identify where shaped plugin components are installed. Compare deployed versions against known good references from a fresh, out-of-band source, and inspect recent plugin update events and logs. Consider disabling auto-updates for the affected vendor until integrity is reestablished. Rotate any credentials exposed to those sites, and run file integrity checks for unexpected PHP changes or web shell indicators. Keep web application firewalls in block mode for anomalous behaviors while you validate. Next, the scripts on your checkout page are now a PCI DSS problem. New PCI DSS rules bring stricter attention to the third-party scripts running in customers' browsers when they enter card data. A modern checkout routinely pulls in analytics tags, tag managers, support widgets, and payment iframes. Any one of those third-party scripts can be modified upstream and turned into a data skimmer, and that risk surface is now squarely in scope for compliance. Key points: when a customer types a card number, their browser often executes dozens of scripts you don't control end-to-end. Assessors are evaluating whether merchants can inventory, authorize, and actively monitor all third-party code interacting with card data. This marks a shift in the scope of compliance. Merchants now must take extra steps to minimize script-based risks, such as code reviews, third-party risk assessments, and real-time monitoring. Third, a freshly added Splunk enterprise flaw in the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. A new flaw in Splunk Enterprise has been added to the catalog, and it presents a critical opportunity for defenders. This flaw could be exploited to compromise visibility platforms that organizations use to monitor and defend their environments. Defenders should check for updates, apply patches, and review their incident response playbooks to ensure they can detect and mitigate potential abuse of the vulnerability. In summary, the landscape of cybersecurity threats continues to shift. From supply chain attacks on trusted update channels to compliance pressures on checkout scripts and new, high-profile vulnerabilities, defenders need to act quickly and decisively. Stay vigilant and monitor these scripts and detect unauthorized changes. This shifts responsibility from just securing the server to governing what executes on the payment page in real time. Why it matters is both security and compliance. Skimming at the browser layer can bypass hardened servers, and failing to control third-party scripts can create exposure to cardholder data theft and non-compliance findings. The operational takeaway is to treat the checkout page like a highly restricted environment, not a general marketing surface. If you're responsible for e-commerce, reduce script sprawl on payment pages, apply strict allow listing for domains that can load there, and implement change control for any new or updated scripts. Consider content security policy, sub-resource integrity for static assets, and real-time monitoring to alert on unauthorized script additions or behavior changes. Where possible, isolate card entry fields using a compliant payment iframe, and ensure any tag management does not inject uncontrolled code into the payment flow. Document how you detect and respond to script tampering to meet assessor expectations. Finally, CISA adds one known exploited vulnerability to its catalog, CVE-2026-20253, a missing authentication for a critical function in Splunk Enterprise. The entry signals evidence of active exploitation in the wild. CISA notes this vulnerability type is a frequent attack vector and poses significant risk to the federal enterprise, and the associated directive prioritizes updates based on risk. The essentials here are that exploitation is happening now, the flaw affects Splunk Enterprise, and remediation should be prioritized in line with KEV guidance. When a critical function lacks authentication, attackers can potentially invoke sensitive operations without valid credentials, enabling fast compromise and follow-on actions. This matters because once a vulnerability lands in the KEV, it becomes a de facto must-patch. Splunk often has elevated access to telemetry and systems, so an issue in its control surface can become a powerful pivot for adversaries. The window between disclosure and weaponization is effectively already closed. Defenders should immediately identify all Splunk Enterprise instances, review the vendor's security advisories for fixed versions or mitigations, and apply updates without delay. Until fully remediated, restrict network exposure to Splunk management interfaces, enforce strong authentication where applicable, and increase monitoring for unusual administrative actions and API calls. Review logs for signs of misuse tied to the vulnerable function, and be prepared to rotate credentials or tokens that may have been exposed. Across all three stories, the pattern is consistent. Third-party and supply chain dependencies are where attackers are finding leverage. From plugin update pipelines, to browser-side scripts, to core enterprise platforms. Tighten trust boundaries, verify what you think you're controlling, and shorten the time from advisory to action. If this helped you prioritize your week, subscribe for more briefings, share this with your incident response and compliance teams, and let me know in the comments which controls you're doubling down on next.